So here I'm looking through and I see this triangle that I'm given. I have to solve. I know all the side lengths, but I don't know any of the angle measurements. And so since I don't have any opposites, right, I don't have any side length and then the opposite angle, I can't use the law of sines. So instead I'm going to rely on the law of cosines. I'm going to go ahead and look for one of these angles. Doesn't matter which one I choose first. I'm going to actually, I usually recommend when I'm using law of cosines to solve for the biggest angle. If there's maybe an obtuse angle, that's what I try and search for. So when I'm going through this one here, I'm going to do the law of cosine searching for C. So that means 26.8 has to be this number on the outside, and then 17.1 and 17.5 have to be, we'll call my A and B values. So it's going to be a long string here. So 17.1, 17.5 cosine of angle C, which is what I'm looking for. So do a little bit of calculator work here. I'm going to do 26.8 squared. I'll rewrite this just because this is a piece where people make a mistake just by plugging things into a calculator wrong. So I want you to take your time in doing this and don't be like me while you're trying to talk and do it at the same time, because that's kind of ripe for where you're going to make mistakes. So I added these two things together to get 598.66. And next I'm going to go ahead and multiply all of that together. So 2 times 71, not 71, 17.1 times 17.5. That gives us 598.5 cosine of angle C. So a big mistake people make is they try and subtract these things. Don't do that, please. Instead, what I want you to do is subtract 598.66 from both sides here, and we'll get 718.24 minus 598.66. I get 119.58 equals negative 598.5 cosine of C. Now I'm dividing by negative 598.5. And I'm going to leave this in my calculator as this exact number, but I'm going to kind of show you all that it's about 0.1998 and it is negative. And again, we kind of expect this to be negative because think of like a unit circle, right? Is if we have a line that's over here, this is an obtuse angle. So my cosine or my x value is going to be negative or on the left side. So that makes sense. Now we're going to do the inverse cosine of that value in our calculator, and we get our C value here of about 101.53 is our C value here. So 101.53. All right, so from here, notice that we're going to use a rounded value for this angle. So depending on what people round it to, you might get slightly different answers for the rest of these angles, but I'm going to go ahead and use law of sines to solve for, let's call it B here. So I am going to do sine of 101.53 over the opposite side, which is 26.8, and then sine of, we don't know what this value is, over its opposite side, which is 17.1. I multiply 17.1 by both sides, so 17.1 sine 101.53 over 26.8 equals sine of B. So I'm really going to do the inverse sine of all of this to get B. Now I'm going to take a second to plug that into a calculator and try and talk and stall while I do this, because it sometimes just takes a while and I don't want to make any mistakes doing this. And we'll call that good. And I'm hoping this sounds right, but I should get about 38.695 or 0.7 is what we'll call that. So 38.7. And so for my last angle, since I have two of the angles already, I'm just going to subtract them from 180. So subtract that. Again, I'm doing 180 minus 101.53 minus 38.7. That should give us about 39.77. 39.77. I just want to double check my work here and make sure everything makes sense. So 101.53 plus 38.7 plus 39.77. I did something. Oh, no. There we go. Perfect. 180. So now I have every single angle, every single side. So I'm all done.